The Galactic Council chamber erupted in what could only be described as polite alien laughter when Admiral Chen Wei stepped forward to present humanity's contribution to the defense grid. The massive holographic display showed Earth's proposed orbital defense platform, a series of electromagnetic railguns positioned around key stellar jump points. Kinetic projectiles? Ambassador Zix Thera of the Hegemony wheezed through her breathing apparatus, her crystalline form shimmering with what Chen had learned was amusement. Primitive mass drivers? How quaint. The Vorthon representative, a towering insectoid creature with iridescent wings, clicked his mandibles in what passed for chuckling among his species. Honored humans, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but the void wraiths phase through dimensional barriers. Your bullets would pass harmlessly through them. Admiral Chen maintained his composure, though his jaw tightened imperceptibly. With respect, honored delegates, our analysis suggests... Analysis? The ethereal collective's psionic ambassador projected waves of condescension that made several species in the chamber recoil. You've been in space for barely 2 centuries. We've fought the wraiths for millennia. They exist partially outside our dimensional framework. Energy weapons can be modulated to strike them, but kinetic projectiles are useless. The Hegemony's war leader, General Korthmax, leaned forward on his massive frame. His people had held the front lines against the void wraiths for 3,000 years. Young species, we honor your courage, but this threat requires proven technology. Our plasma cannons, the Vorthon's quantum disruptors, the collective's psionic lances, these can harm the enemy. Your railguns cannot. Chen glanced at Dr. Sarah Martinez, humanity's chief xenobiologist and the only person who had actually studied captured wraith tissue. She gave him the slightest nod. Nevertheless, Chen said quietly, we request permission to install our defense grid at the Kepler 442 junction. It's a secondary route. If we're wrong, minimal strategic impact. The chamber fell silent. The Kepler 442 Starline was indeed considered a minor trade route, connecting only 3 small colonies to the main network. If the humans wanted to waste resources defending it with primitive weapons, what harm could it do? Granted, Zixathera declared with what sounded like magnanimous amusement. Let this serve as an educational experience. 3 months later, the first human railgun platform came online at Kepler 442. The weapons were massive, each barrel stretched nearly 2 kilometers, capable of accelerating ferrous projectiles to 15% of light speed. Dr. Martinez had insisted on specific metallurgical compositions for the slugs, though she'd been frustratingly vague about why. The void wraith struck 6 weeks after that. They came through the Proxima 7 Starline first, as predicted, a roiling mass of shadow and malevolent energy that existed in the spaces between dimensions. The assembled fleet of the Galactic Defense Force engaged them with everything they had. Plasma cannons blazed, quantum disruptors warped space-time, and psionic lances pierced the void. The wraiths barely slowed. Conventional defenses are failing. General Korthmax's voice crackled over the combat network. They're adapting faster than anticipated, requesting immediate reinforcement of all secondary routes. That's when the emergency beacon from Kepler 442 lit up every command center in the galaxy. Contact, contact! Massive wraith formation emerging from the Starline. Lieutenant Commander Harrison's voice was tight with tension. At least 40 entities, Class 7 manifestations or higher. In the council chamber, now serving as a military command center, the delegates watched in horror as the tactical display showed the wraith formation bearing down on the human defense platform. 40 void wraiths was enough to consume a planet. Can we get reinforcements there? Zixthara asked desperately. Negative, Admiral Veltar of the combined fleet replied. All ships engaged at Proxima 7. The humans are on their own. The display showed the single human platform dwarfed by the approaching nightmare. 8 railgun turrets tracked the incoming threat, while the skeleton crew of 200 humans prepared for what looked like certain death. Platform Alpha 7, this is Admiral Chen, the old man's voice carried across space. You are authorized to engage with Project Persephone protocols. Copy that, Admiral. Persephone protocols active. What happened next would be discussed in military academies for generations. The railguns fired. Not the standard ferrous slugs everyone expected, but something else entirely. Dr. Martinez's special projectiles, each one containing a microscopic amount of what she called dimensional anchor, material, particles. harvested from the boundary between realities, synthesized using human quantum physics and stubbornness in equal measure. The first salvo struck the lead wraith at 15% light speed. Instead of passing harmlessly through, the projectile tore through the creature's dimensional matrix like a hot knife through butter. The entity's death scream echoed across multiple planes of existence. The chamber fell silent as the tactical display updated. 1 wraith down, 39 to go. The platform's 8 turrets fired in sequence, their electromagnetic field singing hymns of destruction. Each projectile found its mark, each hit devastating the wraith's ability to phase between dimensions. The creatures, suddenly forced to exist fully in normal space-time, found themselves vulnerable in ways they hadn't experienced in millennia. Within 17 minutes, all 40 void wraiths were dead. The silence in the council chamber stretched until Admiral Chen spoke again. Dr. Martinez spent 2 years studying the wraith tissue samples the hegemony provided. She theorized that while they could phase through most matter, certain quantum-entangled particles might create dimensional anchors that could force them into our reality. He turned to face the assembled delegates, his expression carefully neutral. Of course, we needed a delivery system capable of striking fast-moving targets across interplanetary distances. Fortunately, humans have been throwing rocks at each other since we discovered warfare. Ambassador Zixithera's crystalline form had gone completely still, the hegemony equivalent of stunned silence. Your railguns? They can actually kill void wraith? Apparently so, Chen replied. We'll need to retrofit all platforms with the new ammunition, naturally. The dimensional anchor material is complex to synthesize, but we're prepared to share the technology with all council members. General Korthmax's massive frame shook. With laughter, Chen realized. 3,000 years we fought them with energy weapons trying to match their technology, and you defeated them by throwing better rocks. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, a slight smile on her face. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. We just needed to throw them hard enough. The tide of the war turned that day. Not because humanity had superior technology, but because they had approached an ancient problem with fresh eyes and stubborn creativity. Within a year, every defensive platform in the galaxy was equipped with human-designed railguns and dimensional anchor ammunition. The void wraiths learned to fear the simple kinetic projectiles hurled by the youngest species in the galaxy, and the galaxy learned never to underestimate the ingenuity of humans who had spent their entire history perfecting the art of throwing things at problems until they stopped being problems. In the end, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their courage. It was their absolute refusal to accept that something couldn't be done just because no one had figured out how to do it yet.